In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how we can write JavaScript in a separate file that we can then include in an HTML file and get to run in the browser. So rather than having to type all of our code in our console here, which only exists until we refresh the page or close the window, we can now get things to persist and save in a file. So to do this, we need to have an HTML file. So I have one here in Sublime. It's called index.html. Call it whatever you want. And we just need to put our basic HTML in here. So I'm going to call this script demo. And then we don't have to put anything here if we don't want to, but just to make it clear that it's the same page, I'm going to put JS, let's do including JS files, and save. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up in the browser just so we have it. So it looks like this, including JS files. And just like any other site, I can open up the console if I wanted to, and I could start typing some JavaScript here. But the whole point was that we'd be typing our JavaScript in a separate file. So to do that, I first need to make a separate file. So I'm going to make a new file and save it, and I'm just going to call it script.js. And the important part is the JS at the end. So that tells the browser, it tells Sublime, it tells everything this is a JavaScript file. And I'm going to save it in the same directory. And then I'm going to put a single line of JavaScript here to start. Alert, hello from the JS file. So we can just see if it's working if we get this alert. So right now, if we just refresh the page, it's not connected. The file, our HTML file, knows nothing about the JavaScript file, so it doesn't work. So we need to connect them. And the way that we do that is using a script tag. So you can either type script and hit tab, and that will give it to you in Sublime, or you can type it yourself and it looks like this, script, and it's not self-closing, so we need to have the closing tag. And then we need the source attribute. And that source attribute needs to be equal to the file that we want to load. And I'm actually going to start by putting a file that doesn't exist here just to show you something. Wrong.js. And if I save this and go back to the browser and I refresh and I open up my console, you'll see it tells me failed to load resource, error, file not found. It couldn't find wrong.js. So that's all I want to show. If we put the wrong name there, it will actually tell us that it can't find the file, but only in the console. So it's not going to break the site. It's just going to show it to people who know where to look, mainly developers. So I'm going to put the right file here, script.js, save, go back to the browser and refresh, and I now get my alert. So anytime this page loads, that code is going to run automatically. So unlike my JavaScript console, when code runs when I hit enter, so in this case, when I refresh the page, the code runs. So what I want to do now is go back to the JavaScript file and just add a few lines instead of just the alert. I want to have a few lines that ask the user for his or her name, and then it just prints out a message that says, nice to meet you, whatever the user entered. So to do that, we're going to use prompt. So that's our first line, prompt, what is your name? Let's capitalize that. And then we're going to store that in a variable so we can use it later. So I'm going to say var username equals prompt, what is your name? And then the next step is to use that username to then greet the user. So I'm just going to say, nice to meet you, username. So we're going to do an alert and a console.log. So let's start with our alert. Alert, nice to meet you. Make sure we have the right spacing in there. Plus username. And a console.log, just so we can see it in two places. Also, great to meet you, plus username. So we're concatenating the strings together 2 different times, one to alert them and one to console.log. So now let's go back to the browser. We refresh. First thing that happens, it asks us for our name. So I'm going to put in my dog's nickname, Tater, hit OK, and it tells me, nice to meet you, Tater. And if I opened up the console, I'll see, also great to meet you, Tater. And also you can see it tells me script.js line 3. So later when we have crazy complicated files and something goes wrong, we'll be able to see exactly where and what line number in our file. So that's all I wanted to show there, those 3 methods. We had prompt to ask a user for some input, and it stores it in a variable. Alert, just to be obnoxious and alert something in a little pop-up. And console.log, which just prints something to the console.